Thank you for taking this moment to breathe and to listen to what can change your life forever. My name is Ragnar Sinikas, and I'm the founder of Starpreneur TV, How to Dominate the Talk Show, World Woman Conference and Awards, the creator of Coral Desk, the coach of the Changemakers, and co-author of the Dominate the Decade book. My mission is to empower through education, and thank you for joining us. Today, I had the honor to talk with Laura Carcaci. She is the Women's Clarity Coach and owner of Beyond the Wall Breakthrough Coaching. So, ladies and gentlemen, please help me to welcome you, Laura. Laura, tell us your story. Why are you doing what you're doing, and what is your passion?
Thank you, Ragni. I'm honored to be here with you today. I love how you start your show with the taking the breath, because that is exactly what is the beginning of what I always love to do. So a little bit about myself and my journey to getting where I was to where I am now. So I lived most of my life scattered. I had no goals. I had no direction. I had no clear path for moving forward. And I still am a free spirit. I don't thrive well in structure or routine, which is actually fine and beautiful. The only problem is throughout my life, I had not chosen a path. So what happened was I lived a wild and very unstructured life. I had so many disposable menial jobs that were beneath my abilities and beneath my education, because I didn't delve deeply enough into who I was. I partied a lot. I engaged in risky and unhealthy behavior. I even sang in a rock and roll band for years, which was it was amazing. I would not change anything about that, but it fit with that freestyle lifestyle, and we did not develop any huge success, so there was not even like an end result to that other than enjoying our time and sharing music with people. But my biggest issue was my automatic response to any challenge, and that was to run. I would run from relationships. I would run from jobs. I would run from living situations. I was running from myself. Little did I know. So I couldn't face challenges, so I ran. So the result of this lifestyle of no directions and running, I was a single mom with no father for my children. I have 3 sons, single mom, father not in the picture. I was struggling financially, emotionally, spiritually. I felt completely alone and unsupported. And I felt like a failure. I felt like I failed my children. I failed myself. But God intervened in a very unique and sudden way, actually. And it was a very normal afternoon. My boys and I were in the library, actually. They were getting some summer reading material. And I naturally went to the self-help and spiritual section, which I always usually did, because that was what I was drawn to from a young age. And I knew that there was something there, and people would always come to me with their problems. They would feel comfortable to talk to me about their problems. And little did I know that that was an actual gifting. I just didn't know. So here I am, broken, alone, feeling like a failure. I'm in the library, and two books actually practically jump right out at me. One was a book on angels and meditation, and another book was called Intentional Living by a gentleman I'd never heard before. His name is John Maxwell. So I began to read the Angels and the Meditation book first, and that got me to centering myself and quieting the noises around me and listening to the inner dialogue that I had within me all my life, realizing the beliefs that were keeping me back. I was feeling unworthy. I was feeling not good enough. I was feeling like a failure and that I couldn't succeed. That's why I ran from all of these things. So I was realizing that through meditation and all of that. So then I started reading Intentional Living, and that was it. That just solidified my passion for coaching is exactly what I am to do. And it got me onto the goal setting and vision seeking, like developing vision for my future. And so all of that, within 3 years, I became a John Maxwell team coach, trainer, and speaker, certified, 2 life coaching certifications, the owner of Beyond the Wall Breakthrough Coaching, and most specifically, I am that women's clarity coach, which takes women exactly on the journey that I took, from scattered and stuck to centered and clear and confident, so that they can begin to succeed in any area of their life.
While we're talking about that type of coaching, what do you see with the circumstances that we are currently under, the circumstances, as we can say? What do you see? Has it increased? Has it? What's happening? Are more women reaching out to you for help, or whether it's more like even if they need help, they are somewhere flying, no, in a sense that they're escaping their real life and their real authentic selves? What do you see? What's happening now?
I am seeing in the circle of women that are coming to me that they are craving that inner connection. They're seeing the chaos around them, and they are craving clarity and craving to find that inner power and that inner knowing. And I help them to tap into their intuition, which is that part of them that's most closely connected to God, to source, infinite intelligence, whatever source you believe in. And that's where that wisdom and guidance and peace comes from. So you cannot operate outside of that with clarity and without having outside influences throwing you off center. So what I call my work is the foundational work before the work. So I believe any transformational, any personal growth program needs to start with a program like I have, which helps the woman to get to her center first.
Yeah, I totally agree. And not only for women, because I think also what we are lacking in today's leadership, and why also we see so many CEOs, leaders flying or escaping, is the same type of feeling that we have built up our power on external, not
Absolutely.
internal. So, but let's take it a little more into pieces. So, if someone comes to you, what would be the first step? Like, how do you work with them? What is the first step into personal growth?
So what I learned in looking back on my success and how I got to operating from a place of being centered is exactly that. The first step was through that book, the Angels and Meditation book, was getting centered. So meditation, mindfulness, I tell my women, first we need to do some breathing exercises. Let's just take some breaths. There's certain excellent breathing exercises that I show them where they are quieting that noise. So that's the absolute first step, because you cannot be clear if you're not listening to that deep guidance. So the next step did you like me to go through the steps of my process briefly? Okay, so the process that I've developed is called the adding process, ADDING, and it's a transformational process for, I specifically chose women because that's what God put on my heart, is for women. I have coached men, but specifically my heart is for women. So absolutely everyone would benefit from starting any adventure, any personal growth journey by beginning with being centered. And a quick note on being in alignment, that's the A for the adding process. So alignment means getting in alignment with your inner being, with your spirit, with your inner knowing, your intuition. And I've had people ask me, what does that look like? How do I know that I'm connecting with my inner being? And I always tell them, you know that feeling when you're looking at a sunset, or a out over the ocean, or a brand new baby. I get goosebumps just thinking of those things. When you feel so in awe that you are so connected and you just feel like time is standing still, that's you connecting with your inner being. So that's why meditation, prayer, all of that is so perfect for that, because it quiets the noise. And you can go look at a beautiful sunset, anything to get you connected to that inner source. So alignment is the A, which is quieting the noise and beginning to get more accustomed to listening and feeling what it feels like to be connected to your intuition. The first D is the discovery phase, which while you're in alignment, you're discovering those thoughts, those limiting beliefs. They're the cycle of unconscious dialogue that has been going on in your head ever since you were small. Before the age of 7, we know that there was no portion of our brain, the conscious part of our brain, developed so that any input that came to us went straight into our subconscious mind, because we didn't have the ability to accept or reject any thought that came in. So if your parents were telling you, you're not good enough, you can't do this, you can never make this amount of money, up until the age of about 7, when that prefrontal cortex starts developing, you believed everything as true. So those thoughts have been in you since that age. And unless you get in alignment and listen to that inner dialogue that's been going on, that is your operating system, that you weren't even aware that you were operating from, until you can discover how you're operating, what eyes you're looking out of. You're looking out of eyes of unworthiness. You're looking out of eyes of bitterness, of fear. That discovery stage, that's when we work on discovering what those beliefs are of how you're operating. So then the D is the decision stage. Once you're in alignment, you're discovering those limiting beliefs. You now, because you have that capacity to accept or reject any thoughts in your life, now you have the choice. You have the choice to listen and give the power to those limiting beliefs, or you can choose to give the power to your inner being, to your intuition, to your wisdom that is always moving you forward, sees you as the full and complete being that you were born to be, without those limiting thoughts that were poured in. So that D stage is where you have a choice to decide, no, that's not true that I'm unworthy. I have plenty of aspects of my life where I am worthy. And we work through that during that process. And I point out, are you giving your power to those limiting beliefs, to your unconscious mind? Or are you giving power to your superconscious, your inner being, your guidance from God? So it's always a choice, and it's always based on awareness. So the whole process is about awareness. So that's the second D. The I is inspired action, which is exactly what I started doing once I read the book on angels and decided that I knew my passion now is I began every process with centering myself and listening and not taking action, not taking frantic action, but taking inspired action, getting the inspiration. Hey, make that phone call, read that book, take that course. Granted, in the beginning, I mean, it's a learning curve. Sure, I was like, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing this. But the more you get centered with your inner being, the more you'll receive that inner guidance. So the I is the inspired action. So during my coaching, we walk through, okay, Now, what this week, or what within the 2 weeks, have you really felt God, universe, source put on your heart to do, to take the next step? Not out of fear, but out of that wisdom, out of the intuition. And then N for the adding process is navigation. So utilizing, once you're in that alignment, discovering and deciding of those limiting beliefs, what you want to keep, where you want to give the power to, taking the inspired action. I started on my journey, and my ladies' journey, they start seeing a path form. When you're taking that inspired action, you'll see, oh my gosh, in retrospect and looking forward, a path is forming. I'm going to keep on that inspired action and follow this path, not 50 different paths. I see a path forming. So that's the navigation step of the adding process. The final is the G, which is growth environment, which is any personal growth journey. You have got to be intentional in staying in a growth environment. I have mentors, I've taken courses, I have, books and all of that. So that's kind of the brief summary of what the adding process is how I walked through, and how it is the foundation, I believe, of any personal growth journey.
What was the second D? I got everything, but
okay.
I missed the second D.
So the first D was discovering those limiting beliefs, discovering your inner dialogue. The second D is decision. So you're deciding what you want to give the power to. Do you want to give the power to the limiting beliefs, or do you want to give the power to the intuition and the superconscious and infinite possibilities?
Beautiful. I like that it's structured. I like that there is a very logical way going through, because as soon as we women feel the emotional side, it all goes like, as you said, 100 different ways are how we can approach it. So now I understand the part which you say that you are the clarity coach. So you need to have the structure, and that was like, that's why I wanted to understand if whoever comes to you, what they will be experiencing. So thank you for walking us through the first step. So but how can someone go from scattered to centered? You touched it very briefly, but maybe to be more spot on that.
So exactly through that process, is becoming more and more aware of when you are in alignment with your inner being, and when you're out, when you're feeling that wobble, because that is a very it's the word I want to say. It is it's a skill. It's a skill in awareness, and it's a skill in being intentional in meditation and prayer. What I say about meditation and prayer is, meditation is you quieting yourself and listening to God, to intuition, to your inner being. Prayer is talking to God, to source, to whatever you believe in. So the first step is really mastering the art of quieting the outer noise, and that will immediately get you less scattered, because you're quieting all the noise. And truly just walking through that process is the entire way of going from scattered to centered. That's exactly what I did through my life. And it can happen quickly. Like, it was within 3 years that I was from the scattered woman that I was to where I am now. And it's a beautiful process of discovering yourself. That's what I love, is that it's not a difficult personal growth process. You've got to do this and you've got to do that. No, it's a gentle, let me learn about myself. Let me learn what are all those thoughts that have been keeping me back? And you really work on your inner child, and you get this connection with your inner child where you're healing. It's a healing that goes on. And then the more you heal and the more awareness you have of your limiting beliefs and how you can clear them, and or choose just to give the power to the unlimited possibilities, it's a healing. It's a healing, and you feel more and more powerful. You feel more and more clear. Um, and it's an ongoing thing. This isn't like a, hey, let's do this program once kind of thing. This is a daily, it's a daily chore. It's a daily meditation. It's a daily practice.
If you think back now, and especially for the time when you started to have the awareness and all of that, um, could you say, did you define really why you were escaping? Like why you didn't, for example, why did you stay and just solve the issues there? Like, did it go back like to childhood, or did it go back that was the role model that you have seen? Like, did you really understood what was provoking that type of behavior?
That is an excellent question. That is an excellent question. Um, the moment that I discovered why I was running, well, the beginning of why I was running, there's layers upon layers upon layers as to why, we all are made of layers. But I did an exercise about my inner child, just what I was speaking of before, where I teach this, but you literally get a picture of yourself when you are before the age of 7, a good clear picture where you can see your eyes and your face, and you just take some breaths and you simply look at that picture, look directly into your little you's eyes. I did that. I completely bawled my eyes out. I was hysterically crying. Didn't know the pain that I had been carrying inside. And I could visualize my little me, inside of my consciousness, balled up like this. She was balled up like this. And I thought, oh my gosh, all these years I have not been dealing with her. She's been scared, she's been hurting. And I just cried, and I was like, I am so sorry for not checking in with you. I'm sorry for all the things that I've done to you. It was such a healing thing. And I think that is why I was running, because anytime I got to anything challenging, that would mean I would have to face my inner child. And she was not ready. She was not having it. She was so hurting inside. And so then through work, sure, there was things in childhood and whatnot that all based on, dominant negative beliefs, dominant, limiting beliefs kind of thing. So that doing that inner child work really shifted me hugely. And now, even now, it's an ongoing process. You can check in with your little you like a mother to a child and be like, okay, I'm feeling anxious right now. Why am I feeling anxious? What's going on, dear? What's going on inside? And you will hear from her the more and more you do this work, and more things will break free, and then you'll feel her like flourishing and growing inside. So it's a beautiful process.
Has that helped you in a sense that you're a mother of 3 boys? What has changed in that relationship now? Like, are you able to really make better decisions? Also understanding maybe better their inner child, and trying to maybe for taking bits and pieces, in that sense that most probably you flying, not having father, all of that, what could provoke in the end of the day for them as well, and you being as a role model, as we all are parents. Like, how have you explained that to them? Like, Like, I think a lot of parents are in that situation, and they would be, whoever is listening now, it's like, wow, I never thought about that, because we're trying to do our best, but how it really works, like, what did you learn from that, and how are you really applying that to your life?
It is extremely difficult being a single mother of 3 teen boys, I can tell you. And just in the past year or so, even more so, because they've become into their teens. So they're not my little boys anymore, where I was able to navigate that a little bit better. I am now seeing, yes, that type of thing. I'm seeing their spirits. I'm still very reactive. Don't get me wrong. I am not the number one mom in the world. I just yelled at them earlier, and they're like, "Will you stop yelling?" But because we are, women, and I don't think this is a sexist thing to say, because we are women, but we are more emotional generally. So as opposed to if there was a father in the life, they would get the discipline. This is how you do it. I am learning to not be as emotionally reactive as I can. So yes, and I'm very, very aware now of um, quote unquote damaging. You know what I mean? I mean, none of us are perfect parents, but I am absolutely more aware of being intentional in how I'm saying things.
But do you intentionally also teach them, in a sense that, you know what, when maybe they saw different type of role modeling before, because obviously they were very small, and you think, we try to think that maybe they didn't notice, or they notice, and they hear everything, no? Have you intentionally talk about it, and gave them, like, this is what I did, but this is what I don't want for you to do, so they also understand that part. And I think it's, again, us as a parents, we are responsible for that type of communication.
Absolutely. I'm very open with my kids, probably to a fault for some people. But I will say, um, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the way that I was before, and that's not the way to react to something. And um, you know that kind of thing. And I will. One thing I told my oldest the other day, which is a awesome bit of information for everybody, is that every situation, any situation, I don't care what it is in its essence neutral. Everything is neutral. What we put our perception on it based on our beliefs, our emotions, our past experiences. So my perception of an event or whatnot, it may be completely different than your perception of an event. So I was just speaking with my oldest yesterday about that, and I was saying, um, you can be very aware of how you're perceiving an event. And and if the way that I'm reacting to how you're being, and you're seeing it a different way, that's where that's just a natural thing. So let's talk through it. Let's go back to what that neutral situation was. You didn't do your morning chores. That is me being like, I want to keep the structure. I'm not a structured person. I'm trying to work on something different. Them is mom's being a boss, mom's not letting us, you know what I mean? So I'm pointing out that this is a neutral fact, not to add that there can be different, you can be aware of other people's perceptions as long as there's communication.
Indeed. Who has been the greatest inspiration for you? It can be a woman, it can be a man. We heard about the two books which totally changed your life, but what would you say that also, like, we always have those days when you're just you're like that's it. I don't want this. So who is your inspiration in those moments?
Well, it's going to sound cliche, but God is my inspiration. God is my centering point. God is everything. I don't specifically have, I've never really been asked that question, and I don't really have one specific person. And it also depends on in the seasons of my life and what I'm learning and whatnot. But God is the all-encompassing inspiration for me, and getting, I believe that our purpose of being on this earth, we all started as universal creative energy, all interconnected. And when we came to this earth, we had to develop a sense of independence in order to navigate through life. And I think part of our main goals of being here, the why are we here thing, is enjoying that individuality that we have, but also reconnecting with that pure connection with God. So it's that balancing act of that egoic vehicle that we have to live in on this earth, which is imperfect and is filled with those limiting beliefs, but not denying that we're individuals, but enjoying that individuality, growing as much as we can, closer and closer to the purest being that we are, that God created us to be, and to connect with God. So God obviously is my biggest inspiration. I have a lot of teachers, I have a lot of mentors, but at the end of the day, the beginning of the day, the middle of the day, it's God.
Beautiful. Laura, what future holds for Laura as a person and for Laura as coach?
For Laura as a person, it is to grow deeper in my spirituality, deeper in my connection, to grow, to clear or choose to shift from any limiting beliefs into my most truest power, it as a co-creator with God, and to have a blast with life, to co-create with God, have this walking hand in hand with him. Hey, let's go get that beach house. Let's, just living as fully and filled with his spirit as I possibly can. And career-wise, I want to touch as many women as I can to feel the exact same way. I want them to realize that they live in such power, and it's just cluttered with these beliefs that were piled on them, that they are able to shed or choose to go with their powerful self. And one of my biggest goals in the coaching and in my career is I want to and will begin to facilitate women's retreats. That's in my heart the biggest, is to develop and facilitate women's retreats all around the world, and just take women from their normal, everyday, stressful lives and immerse them in a week-long, just beautiful journey of inner knowing, inner discovery, and relaxation. And so that gives me goosebumps just talking about it. So that's the goal there.
Oh, especially now being at home and not being able to do any of that. Obviously, that
Exactly.
sounds like a dream.
Yes.
So before I will ask Laura her 3 recommendations how to dominate the decade, thank you everybody who has joined us also in here in Zoom and also in Facebook Live. Please, if you have any questions, comments, recommendations, then leave them below the video or here in the chat area. And we have a lot of people here. Thank you. Thank you for joining us from Houston, from Iowa, from Kuala Lumpur, from London, from India, from Estonia, from Mexico. So we are all over. So thank you very much for joining us. And please please leave your questions or comments. And I hope you did take some notes, because there was a lot of value which was shared. And if you didn't, then you need to go back to see the video. So Laura, your 3 recommendations how to dominate your decade.
How to dominate the decade. Alignment, number 1. I will always say that. Alignment, number 1. Align with your intuition, your inner knowing, with your closest connection to God. Number 2, always be growing. Always be seeking mentors and education and opportunities to grow. And the 3rd is connection. Connect with, be the light. Be the light to those around you. Don't always take in the light, be the light. If you feel someone is hurting, reach out to them. Don't hesitate. We are all in this together. So those would be my 3.
Absolutely great. So again, if you didn't take the notes, I do it now. Let me see. Yes, alignment. Meditation is about mindfulness. Yes. Prayer is about gratitude as well. Yes, it is. Meditation is about listening. Prayer is about talking. I think what we meant by talking is mainly the self-talk, or saying out loud as you need to have it. Great job, April. You get it. Alignment, growing, connection. So we have a question here. What is the milestone you are most proud of in your personal life and professional life?
I think that my so far biggest milestone, because I know there's going to be more and more, was actually taking the financial and emotional leap to actually join the John Maxwell team. It was I came from very much of a lack mentality because I didn't have a lot of money, and it was extremely stressful to say, yes, I'm going to invest in this, which means investing in myself. I was investing in myself for the first time ever. So that was by far, so far, the biggest milestone that I've had, because also if I did not do that, I have a community of thousands of colleagues all over the world now that remember I said earlier, I didn't feel supported, I felt alone. That milestone helped me to feel supported in the biggest way.
Sorry, I was muted. So, and yesterday, the presenter said, if you are the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong room. Laura today said correctly, be the light, share your knowledge. Yes, I think that the smartest person in the room comes from John Maxwell. He just, I think every single presentation that he does mention that. So that's very, very John Maxwell, from John Maxwell. So I have one question now. You mentioned that you did the investment in yourself. Did you see that as an investment at that point, or did you recognize that that was an investment afterwards? Because a lot of people do not see that in that sense. They see more as an expense rather than investment. And when we start to grow, then we understand that, yes, the same way as we invest in our businesses, we need to invest in ourselves. Like, what did you see that at that moment, or how did you really understood that you need to do that?
I did see that as an investment in myself. I was kicking and screaming doing it because it was scary. It was the scariest. It was the most, investment I had ever done in myself. I had not invested at all in myself. My whole journey was running from any kind of belief in myself or whatnot. So I did absolutely feel it was an investment in myself. I did not know to what extent it was. I just knew that that was my next inspired step to take. And once I got to the International Maxwell Conference, where I met you, my dear, it was apparent that I was definitely on the correct path.
So we have one comment that those two statements are contradicting statements. Do you want to answer before I do, as I see them?
Okay, can we, I saw that pop up in
So
the chat.
The first one is, if you are the smartest person in the room, you are in a wrong room. And you said that be the light and share your knowledge.
Okay. I don't find that as to be a contradictory statement. Sharing my light means helping where I feel needs help. If someone is, it's more an intuitive, emotional thing. It's not a teaching thing, if that makes sense. I wasn't implying that I was the smartest person in the room. I'll be the first one to tell you I'm never the smartest person in the room. So I don't really see where the contradictory part would be, but me being my light, being the light, is just merely saying that feel where you're feeling someone struggling and reach out to them.
What is the biggest lesson you have learned from your kids? That's a good one.
I saw that one. That I am still learning, and probably will take a lifetime to learn, is patience. I need to, it is, they are teaching me that I need patience, basically. And also I'm just in awe of their resiliency. I'm in awe of, because the life that they have, the earlier part of their life has been a struggle, to see them, how they interact with their friends. They're very loving and they're very uplifting. And I really learn a lot from them in that aspect, that no matter how your growing up life is, you can still be an inspiration to other people.
Oh, yes. I think my biggest lessons have been actually taught by my sons. And patience is one of them. So. Yeah. And when he really comes and looks at you, like, you're sad. You can't be sad. So get up, get to work. It's like, then you're like, oh my God, okay. So there must be a pattern that or reflection that he, obviously my husband is a great example on that. So, but it's funny to see what they pick up, and when they come and tell you that, you know what.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I have really enjoyed our talk. So we have more people joining from Estonia. Thank you for joining us. It's incredible to see that our Estonian audience is growing, and that means that they all want to learn, and Yay. I hope they did. When someone wants to maybe ask you a question in privately, because they are not maybe in a state that they want to write out here, and we know that in some circumstances we're very vulnerable. So how can they reach out to you? How can they contact you?
Well, I'm very open as far as my personal Facebook page. If you wanted to, you could add me as a friend if you like, and you can private message me there. I have a business email, which is from my company, is called Beyond the Wall Breakthrough Coaching. It's kind of a long email, but it's beyondthewallbreakthrough@gmail.com. So I don't know if maybe we should type that in the chat box or whatnot, but it's beyondthewallbreakthrough@gmail.com. I am also one of 5 amazing female coaches. I'm involved in a group called M21 Female Empowerment. It's for women only. And if you are interested in what I'm saying, we also have a financial coach. We have a branding specialist. We have a spiritual coach, and we have a health and wellness coach. So we're kind of tailoring the group to, and I'm the mindset and clarity coach. So we're tailoring the group to the whole woman, lots of different aspects. So that's M21 Female Empowerment. Just ask to be invited there, and we'll have you join, and then you can ask questions in there. You can private message within that as well.
Perfect. What does a branding coach do?
Branding coach. Well, that's not my specialty, but it is personal branding. So it's, if you were personally branding yourself on the internet, that kind of thing. If you are a female who just asked that question, join the group and she'll teach you all about it.
Well, I think in today's world, when digital marketing is number one, then branding also is very strong part of it. Let's see. Yeah, April already shared the M21 empowerment here in Facebook. So I want to thank you, Laura, Laura in Estonian, Laura.
I like it.
For taking the time, for sharing very intimate part of your journey and how you got started and why is it your passion. So sometimes it takes a lot of courage to do so. So it's much easier to tell the story through our career. And even if we take a look, we what we do on daily basis, we plan and we organize and we do everything for our career, but we don't do it for our life. So I love the structure. I love the tips that you gave, and I think it was a great inspiration for a lot of women, which maybe you have been also searching, and maybe you feel, as she was describing, that there's like 100 ways to go, and sometimes you just need someone to say, like, why don't you try out this one? And I think the best way to be great is through our failures. So don't be afraid to try out. If you don't gain anything else, you will gain an experience. Sometimes, as she said, we cannot change the circumstances or we cannot change the problems, but what we can do is change our attitude and how we react or act on them. So keep those things in mind. And again, today you have the opportunity to become a hero in your life and in someone else's life. How? By writing everything down, by taking action, and by sharing this information that you just heard. But for you, and concerning your own life, you need to take action on those things. If you don't put the work that it requires into it, nothing is going to change. And the same, it doesn't really take you a lot of effort to share, because you even don't know who can find this information valuable. So be the hero in your life, in someone else's life. Laura, would you like to say the final words to everybody who has been watching us?
Thank you so much for taking your precious time out to listen to my story and what I do. And if you're interested in any coaching, you can contact me through that. We can do a free complimentary first session, so you can kind of get a feel of how I operate. And just God bless you during this time. Stay centered as in whatever way that you do, and just be at peace as best you can.
So if you speak Spanish, then you can join me in 1 hour and 30 minutes when we have Rosie Amparan with us. If you don't, then tomorrow at the same time, at the same channel, we are going to talk with Joe Grace. And surprise, surprise, we are going to talk about the race for grace. So hope to see you. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining us, and be blessed and keep safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Ragni.